Break news coming in. One Indian girl is also among those killed in the Dhaka hostage crisis. Indian embassy has confirmed the news. A total of 6 people have been killed. All of them are believed to be foreign nationals. One Indian girl also among the 20 dead. She's believed to be a student who was studying in Dhaka. We still don't know whether her family was living there with her in Dhaka. We're trying to get in more information from our reporters on the ground. What we do know is that she was a student in Dhaka. She'd gone to the cafe to have a meal with some friends when the hostage crisis started. We're being told that the hostages initially asked her to contact her family and inform them that she had been taken hostage, but then they later had a change of heart and she was killed. Let's get a word from our correspondent Jugal Purohit, who's with us live from our newsroom this afternoon. Jugal, the Indian embassy has confirmed that there was one young Indian girl among those 20 dead. Any information on the identity of the girl, her family? What do we know?
Well, Simi, this is being confirmed to us by sources within the Indian mission there in Dhaka. We are also given an idea about the same by the Bangladeshi army. Remember, at this point in time, while the identification is still on, the Bangladeshi army in fact has set up a hotline number. It is also conducting the postmortems as well as all the procedural issues pertaining to the deaths. So what we do know right now is through sources in the Bangladesh army as well as the Indian mission in Dhaka, an official word confirming the identity and other details is still awaited. However, Simi, a very intriguing episode played itself out just about 4 or 5 hours from now. We did see this news report on several Bangladeshi news channels of an Indian man calling up several news stations and talking about the fact that his daughter, an Indian national, was inside and was not accounted for. So it isn't as of now clear the identity because we're still awaiting those details, but it does seem that we've had an unfortunate fallout where an Indian also has succumbed to this rather mindless act of terrorism that we saw taking place, or starting in fact last evening in Dhaka. Back to you.
Absolutely. Details still sketchy. Our sources in the Indian embassy in Dhaka have told us that one Indian girl who was a student in Dhaka has been killed. Her identity still not very clear. Jugal providing some more details about a person who was reportedly calling up news channels and informing them that his daughter was also taken hostage. Jugal, of course, we do know that the target were foreign nationals, considering that this cafe is located in the diplomatic enclave. We also know that there are about 20 people who were killed and all of them are believed to be foreign nationals.
That's right, Simi. In fact, as you just pointed out, the geography, the timing, the very nature of the place which was attacked, it's very clear just who the enemy is. But is that really new? The fact is that it isn't new. We've seen nationals from places like Italy, from places like Japan, also minorities in Bangladesh being targeted. We also had liberal thinkers and activists who've been attacked. So in that sense, really the attack is on all barring the Sunni majority of Bangladesh, one can say. And this is what is taking place. If I am to recall, this incident which has taken place in the Gulshan area is actually the first such of its type incident in the history of Bangladesh. They've never ever had an incident of this magnitude. And what is slightly different from attacks that have taken place, say, in Australia or in the Western nations, is the fact that in this particular attack, the quantity of ammunition which has been used against the hostages is in fact quite minimal, so to speak. There is an unexploded IED which is there. There are some rounds of AK-47, the gun, pistols. They were all confiscated from the site after the army and the commandos barged in. But what the army later told at the briefing of this entire episode is that most of the hostages were killed using sharp objects, brutally killed in fact using sharp objects. So there is the distinction of it being the first of its type attack, and the fact that the manner of execution in this is also to a degree different from what has been seen traditionally in the West. Back to you.
Right, and Jugal, of course, we're being told that the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda have both claimed responsibility for this terror attack. Of course, experts saying that it seems to be the handiwork of a homegrown group, and these big international terror organizations are basically staking claim to invoke fear. Of course, the attack has sent alarm bells ringing in India as well. How are Indian agencies reacting to this?
Well, Simi, there's no doubt. There is, of course, an alarm which this episode has really created, but it isn't as if this is the only episode that is created. In fact, the alarm has been on for quite a while. We've seen that in the month of April, the Bangladesh unit head of the Islamic State also, while in an interview, said that Bangladesh is essentially going to be a base from where India will be attacked. They will also be doing the same through their western bases in what they call it as Vilayat Khorasan, which coincides roughly with the Afghanistan-Pakistan border region. So the Islamic State, of course, has plans. They again, Simi, do not fall in the category of foreign organizations, because we've been seeing that wherever Islamic State has really taken root, they've largely used the local talent. They've largely used the local resources, so to speak, to stage these attacks, whether they are lone wolf attacks where an individual non-affiliated goes ahead, carries it out, or there are actually organized attacks like the one that this one seems to belong to. Also, Simi, of course, cannot be ruled out is the participation of the Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, the AQIS, a body specifically formed to perpetrate terror activities in this region. They're both in a sense locked in a propaganda war, which seems to be getting intense with every passing incident. In this one, of course, both of them have claimed as it being their handiwork. But the fact is that not any investigating agency is ready to take these claims at face value, because obviously this adds to the propaganda potential, and that's the reason why, notwithstanding the fact that different agencies affiliated to the IS have been tweeting out photographs, have been extremely quick in giving out details. In fact, the Al-Amaq, which is said to be pro-IS, or rather an extension of IS, was actually the first one and the correct one to give the data of those killed. So while there are a lot of things which tell you that there is A or B involved, the fact is that at this point in time there is a bitter match, an unfortunate bitter match between these two and the third party, of course, to claim credit for this carnage. But the agencies concerned are still looking at it, and they are saying it's too early to give, to blame A group from B. They're still waiting, they're still understanding the sequence and waiting for some more confirmations. Back to you.
You could stay on with us now. India Today spoke exclusively to Lieutenant Colonel Tuhin Mohammad Masood, who led Operation Thunderbolt in Dhaka. Let's listen into how the army went about conducting the operation and rescued 13 hostages.
Colonel Masood, can you tell us what was the intelligence that was available to you when you went into this operation?
At night, we just heard that some people have entered in a house where they have kept some hostages, and there are stimulate firing. There are 10 to 15, someone was telling 10 to 15 terrorists, and hostages, we are not very sure, but we heard that there are foreigners, there are locals, and it is a restaurant. So exactly their location was not confirmed, that which is this area. So in the very beginning, the people were not very confirmed, and when people tried to close and see where the location, and then immediately they first threw the grenade and fired few rounds. And that is the place where we had injury. Even myself had 2 splinters. And then the police and the got dispersed, and ultimately we had to regather again, and I had to rescue the 2 serious injured person, injured police officers.
Okay.
The number of terrorists, the estimation was like that, 8 to 10 or 6 to 10. That was the assumption, and so far. Since for the last 4 years, I'm away from the location, because I've been operated in the CNH in the Combined Military Hospital.
Yes.
So, but we have gunned down 6 terrorists on the spot. The commandos who had carried out the subsequent operation onto the spot, they were also not sure that any more terrorists are not there. But
yes,
terrorists tried to fire with the firing. With the firing, they came out of the house and tried to cross the area. But since we are in a position from where we could gun them down, and after that, the commandos, they have stormed the whole area and the house, the restaurant where they kept the hostages.
Now, as Dhaka reels under the impact of the shocking terror attack, Islamic State claims that it's planning to target India next. The Islamic State has warned that the next big attack will be on India. The ISIS magazine The in April carried out an interview of Sheikh Abu Ibrahim Al-Hanif, Amir of Khilafah in Bengal. In it, while he described ISIS as small, weak and lacking capabilities, he nevertheless revealed that the group's design and enlists who it believes are its enemies. Importantly, the group says it has presence in the West, Khorasan, which roughly coincides with the Afpak region, and once it manages to build a base in Bangladesh, it will use both of its bases in the East and West to launch an attack on India. They'll at first focus on guerrilla raids and then more conventional attacks. Jugal Purohit is with us live. Jugal, as you were discussing, ISIS and Al-Qaeda both have claimed responsibility, and experts say they don't really work together to carry out attacks internationally. This seems to be the handiwork of a homegrown terror group. However, ISIS going a step further. In one of its magazines, it's claimed that its next target is going to be India. How seriously are intelligence agencies taking this warning?
Well, Simi, there's no doubt about the fact that the intelligence agencies or the security setup is taking these signals with extreme interest and with extreme attention. In fact, I'm given to understand by senior sources within the internal security setup of the country that this is a matter which has been flagged to as high a level as they possibly could, without obviously naming names. So while the country's apparatus is well and truly aware, let's look at the situation on the ground, and that's where actually the worry is. Because if you are to look at
sorry to interrupt you. Hold that thought. I believe the Bangladeshi army is conducting a press conference. Let's cross live.
সম্মিলিত সামরিক হাসপাতালে ময়না তদন্ত সম্পন্ন করা হবে। অভিযান চলাকালীন সময়ে দায়িত্বশীলতার পরিচয় দেওয়ার জন্য এই অভিযানে
All right, I'm sorry about that link that we seem to have been cut short. There's some technical difficulty that we're facing on that line. Jugal Purohit is meanwhile with us. Jugal, you were telling us about how intelligence agencies are responding to this threat by the ISIS.
Yeah, that's the Islamic State, Simi. What I was saying was that while this matter has received the kind of attention that it should, it has received the kind of seriousness that it should. But let's look at the situation on the ground, and that's where India's biggest weakness remains. I'm given to understand, Simi, that while insofar as the climate is concerned in Bangladesh, it still is being analyzed and reported to be conducive for the growth of these terrorist organizations. So what is India doing? India has a very long border with Bangladesh. We have several projects to fence the border, to have floodlights, to build roads, to police these borders. But the fact is, according to the details that we've got from the Home Ministry, in all these areas, there still remains a significant amount of work which is undone. And that's the reason why I'm given to understand again by sources in the BSF on the ground, there is an immense amount of dissatisfaction as well as a defensive posture that has been adopted, which the intelligence agencies believe may be exploited by elements like the IS or the Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent to actually smuggle in people, to smuggle in arms, terrorists, and carry out the kind of designs and strikes that they are already talking about. This is the cause of concern to me.
Right, Jugal, stay on with us. We're also being joined by Sudhir Bhaumik live from Dhaka. Sudhir, we had some difficulty on that line. The Bangladeshi army was addressing a press conference a short while back. If you managed to hear that press conference, can you take us through some of the highlights?
No, I have been, I've heard that, I've been through that. So I can tell you what they were saying, if you want to.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Bhaumik, could you please take us through some of the highlights of that press conference?
The Bangladesh Army's director of... The Bangladesh Army's director of military operation, Brigadier Naim Ashfaq Chaudhry, made 4 things clear. He said that all those 20 people who were killed were foreigners. And number 2, which is very important, they were all killed last night. So the fact that, you know, these jihadis had gone in, they had taken many people, and they were trying to score a political point by actually killing as many people as they can. And this was a suicide attack. They knew they were going to be encircled. They were encircled by the police almost immediately, but the police failed to get in because of their firepower. The police lost 2 officers actually, the OC of the Banani police station and also an assistant commissioner of the detective branch. So they had to beat a retreat, and that's when the Bangladesh government decided to order a full-scale military assault without wasting any time. And the 1st Para Battalion was sent on the spot. The Para Commando Battalion, the 1st Para Commando Battalion, is a crack elite unit. They were of course joined by the elite Rapid Action Battalion, you know, partly army, partly policemen. They're on ground. It's a very solid force. So these guys, so what they make of this is that the decision to attack these terrorists was taken in view of the fact, in view of indications that they would be killing people. And they had killed a lot of people much before the assault came. So that's number 2. So Brigadier Ashfaq Chaudhry made it very clear that all the people who were killed were foreigners, that it actually includes one Indian, possibly a lady, a young Indian lady living in America called Tarishi Jain, who is sort of associated with a garment organization called Ethical Apparels, and that's why perhaps she was there. She says that her Facebook says that this was launched in April 5th, but much is not known about her. So all these people who were killed were foreigners. Number 2, they were killed mostly last night. Maybe 1 or 2 might have been killed early morning when the army assault started. Number 3, he said the army operation was over in half an hour. So this is no big Arab or Afghan fighter, you know. These are local Bengali Muslim boys, Bangladeshis, who were there, and their normal ability to fight a regular army unit is practically 0. But their capability to go in for a bloodshed by attacking soft targets, which is what all these jihadi groups have been doing all this while, is quite pronounced. And number 4, the highlight that of Brigadier Chaudhry's press conference was that they have got enough evidence now. They've actually caught 1 terrorist live and 6 have been killed. They are fairly sure about the identity already of the group that is involved. They have not yet disclosed it. He didn't disclose it. Maybe this will be done later in the day by the Prime Minister herself. But there is no ISIS or Al-Qaeda as we understand them to be. These are homegrown terrorist groups. They seek a greater international affiliation for understandable reason, and they are linked to the ISIS. So what they do is they go and attack and they kill a Hindu priest or a Buddhist monk or a secular Muslim blogger or a foreigner, and then they quickly upload their pictures to the ISIS website through some internet channel which is encrypted, which is very easy job. So it's a huge publicity thing. As far as these guys are concerned, they do the killing on ground and the ISIS takes the credit. Now here, let me make one point very clear. If the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda both claim responsibility for the operation, they've actually been caught lying with their pants down. You know, they are trying to make a big deal out of these actions all over the world, trying to demonstrate that they have a massive strike range. They can hit anybody they want, from Paris to Jakarta, from Istanbul to Dhaka. But these are homegrown Bangladeshi groups with a definite agenda, and the agenda is discredit the Hasina government, kill the foreigners. Why you kill the foreigners? You kill Hindu priests so that Hasina's government will have a problem with India. You kill foreigners because then the United Nations and all these other various governments like Japan, they will develop cold feet to fund Bangladesh's development projects. They won't send their people on ground. So this is trying to hit Bangladesh economically. This is an extremely diabolical plan. These people are killing Hindu priests to create problems between Hasina government and the Modi government, to touch a raw nerve in Delhi. They are killing foreigners. They've done that before, but this time on a bigger scale, to actually thwart Bangladesh's phenomenal development progress, which is something like 6.5 to 7% annual GDP growth. Very successful implementation of mega projects. Bangladesh has already become a lower middle income country much before their targeted date. They're aiming it big to become a middle income country by 2021. Sheikh Hasina has big plans, mega projects, connectivity, transport, infrastructure, power. But then if you hit the foreigners and they run away from the country and they develop a cold feet in funding these projects in Bangladesh, then Bangladesh slides back to lack of development, which creates anarchy, which creates the right kind of atmosphere for this kind of jihadi politics, which is now finding it difficult to thrive, and which is therefore in a desperate effort to stage a comeback by these kind of sensational attacks.
I'm extremely pained to share that the terrorists have killed Tarushi, an Indian girl who was taken hostage in the terror attack in Dhaka. We do know that this young girl was studying in Dhaka. Sushma Swaraj sharing her name with us as well. Her name was Tarushi. She was studying in Dhaka. We still don't know whether her family was also living there with her. What we do know that she was taken hostage yesterday when terrorists struck that small cafe in the diplomatic enclave last evening. Sources also telling us that initially they had asked Tarushi to call up her parents and inform her that she had been taken hostage, but then they had a change of heart and they fired at her. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj now tweeting, saying, "I'm extremely pained to share that terrorists have killed Tarushi, an Indian girl who was taken hostage in the terror attack in Dhaka." 20 casualties have been listed out by the Bangladeshi army, all believed to be foreign nationals. One Indian casualty also being reported, a young Indian girl called Tarushi who was studying in the Bangladeshi capital.